discussing the question of why do we need sleep? The human body regulates our sleep just like our body also regulates how we eat and drink. Why we need sleep exactly is still somewhat of a mystery according to our textbook. We need sleep for a few different reasons. I will now discuss the theories talked about in our textbook as to why we need sleep, as well as sleep being an essential to survival. The first theory as to why we need sleep is due to the evolutionary perspective. As talked about in the textbook, sleep was originally used to keep animals safe and to protect them from the darkness that is night. During the night, as they sleep, they are keeping themselves from being another animal's prey, as well as saving them from any injuries that could happen due to the darkness of the night and their lack of visibility. The second theory of how sleep helps us is conserving energy. While we are asleep, we are conserving calories. This is especially needed for animals when food is scarce. Not only is the search for food and water much easier in the daylight, but it is as well safer as animals are able to see if any predators are approaching. An example of this discussed in the textbook is the fact that animals that sleep less tend to be more likely someone's food. An example that backs this is a huge part of an American diet is beef. According to the University of Kentucky, cows only get about 4 hours of sleep a day. That is compared to humans that are needing to get about 7 to 9 hours of sleep a day. The third theory is the restorative function of sleep. While we sleep, our brain and body are able to restore, replenish, and rebuild. For example, many of the body's cells show an increase in production and have shown reduced breakdown of proteins during deep sleep. As stated in the book, protein molecules are the building blocks needed for cell growth and for repair of damage from factors such as stress. An example of a large concern to restoration is sleep deprivation, which can affect the body much like stress can. What really is sleep deprivation? Sleep deprivation is a lack of sleep that can lead to severe conditions and diseases in the future. According to an article by the National Library of Medicine that was shared in class, quote, sleep deprivation is associated with considerable social, financial, and health-related costs, in large measure because it produces impaired cognitive performance due to increasing sleep propensity and the instability of waking neurobehavioral functions, end quote. Sleep deprivation lowers the complexity of processing in the brain due to the decreased brain activity in the thalamus, as well as the prefrontal cortex. According to our textbook, the thalamus is crucial to receiving and responding to sensory information, as well as the prefrontal cortex is associated with thinking and planning. While we sleep, our prefrontal cortex conduct activities to strengthen our memory associations. This makes our brain form long memories while we are awake. Due to this, we are lacking sleep. We are in some sense losing memories due to our prefrontal cortex not being able to produce those long-term memories while we are awake. A large concern that comes along with sleep deprivation is a very rare disease called fatal familial, also known as FFI. FFI is a disorder that is caused by a genetic mutation that involves an inability to sleep, such as insomnia, but it then continues to worsen progressively. Our textbook states that FFI also highlights the role of the thalamus in sleep because in cases of FFI, the thalamus shows enormous damage. While FFI has no known cure, it also leads to death about 18 months after the patient starts to see symptoms. FFI is hard to diagnose to the fact that it can be mistaken for multiple neurological and physiological disorders. The fourth and final theory discussed in our textbook is the role of sleep in brain plasticity. So what exactly is brain plasticity, you may wonder? Our textbook states that brain plasticity is, quote, the brain's special physical capacity for change. Plasticity is the brain's ability to change and adapt to new experiences. For example, I have attached a 3-minute video here that discusses how Patricia had a stroke and her speech began to slur, while the right side of her face began to droop and she became dizzy. Her doctors began to tell her that she would never be able to move or talk again, to the point that her death had already been put into the papers. Some would say it was a miracle, but her husband began a therapy program for his wife. 2 years later, Patricia was able to act again with no issues in her speech or movement. Due to the therapy, Patricia was able to in some way reprogram her brain because of the brain plasticity. There are many reasons why each and everyone needs sleep. According to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders, quote, sleep is important to a number of brain functions, including how the nerve cells or neurons communicate with each other. In fact, your brain and body stay remarkably active while you sleep. Recent findings suggest that sleep play a housekeeping role that removes toxins in your brain that build up while you are awake, end quote. Sleep is essential in restoring, replenishing, and rebuilding our brain and body. Sleep is essential in conserving our energy and staying safe from predators. Just like eating and drinking, our human bodies regulate sleep. Lack of sleep leads to sleep deprivation, which can then lead to serious life-threatening conditions. While it is still a mystery why exactly we need sleep, we know that without it, not only are we deprived, but we are unable to produce those long-term memories. The longer we sleep and the more our brain can clean, meaning that we can have a clearer mind. Lack of sleep will leave us with a cloudy mind. I want to end this presentation with a few tips from the National Institute of Aging as to how we can better our sleep. Firstly, we need to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day. Secondly, find ways to relax before going to bed. Thirdly, avoid distractions such as electronics. Fourthly, don't eat a large meal, drink coffee, or alcohol before going to bed. And the next one is exercise within normal times of the day and not too close to bedtime. Avoiding long naps. And lastly, always trying to get those 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night to make sure that you wake up with a well-rested and clear mind.